So I got to tell you a quick story on this movie and why I chose that song, The Greatest Showman. I'm not a movie guy. My wife she loves going to the movies, and I would not go to this movie with her, The Greatest Showman, and she was mad about it. So I need to go to the movies with her. But it takes a wrestling movie to get me into a movie theater. But with this, so she went by herself, and she came home, and she was so excited. She's like, "That is the best movie ever. I loved it. And the music was great." And I'm like, "Oh, man, a musical. I don't want to go to a musical." And she's like, "We're going to sit down and watch this, like force me." And I was like, "All right, I'll sit down and watch it." And I was like hating it. And then all of a sudden the music came on, and it's all about dreams and eyes wide open and, stuff that I think about all the time and like dreaming. And I was like, I kind of like it. I like this movie. And that was one of my favorite songs in there. And when I was doing my talk today, I named it A Live Wire. And then I was like, I need to play that music, Come Alive. And what I want to do is open it up, and I'm going to talk about philosophy first, and then talk about the wire, the live wire, that thing in your back that connects your brain to the rest of your body. But start out with philosophy, because I think everybody has a philosophy on, money, on philosophy on how to raise your kids, philosophy on politics. And what's your philosophy on health? Like, do you have a philosophy? Because I think a lot of people's philosophy on health is told by somebody else rather than you owning it yourself. And that's what we need to start out. And there was this book way back when I was in school, called the Chiropractic Textbook, and this was written in the 1920s, and it's by B.W. Stevenson, and it's all about 33 principles of health. And I'm going to talk about one of the principles there, the perfection of the Triune, but even before, Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and all these people out there that are talking about health and success and all this stuff, it was all written in 1920s. By B.W. Stevenson, because it's really a textbook on health and life. And that's what I want to talk about first, is just what your philosophy. We got to get the philosophy on your health and make your decisions every single day, just like Laney was talking about. What is your choice? Are you going to take this information and go put it into play? So the perfection of the Triune. So in order to have 100% life, there must be 100% intelligence. I call it innate intelligence. So when two cells come together in mama's womb, those two cells form one cell that divides into two cells, into four cells, into 8 cells, 16, 32, 64. You know where I'm going? That 9 months later, a beautiful little baby comes out. I mean, that's amazing. And that innate intelligence, I think it's from the good Lord above that comes down through us, that design is amazing, and everybody has an innate intelligence in them, and you got to use that innate intelligence because your body always knows what to do. The second part is 100% force, and that's your energy that your body has. If I had a corpse right here next to me, what's the difference? We have the same parts in us. The difference is there's still a force, there's still an energy in me. Equals 100% matter. And this isn't physics class when we talk about matter. The matter is our body. And how is your body functioning, and how do we change the matter in your body? And this is where kind of things gets really confusing, because we want to change the matter, and there's many different ways to do it. In our office, in my philosophy, I'm going to do it 5 different ways. We talk about the 5 essentials of max living all the time. That's your brain. Are you stinking thinking or good thinking? Your nutrition, your exercise, just like Dr. Nish was talking about. Are you putting too much sugar in your body? Are you exercising? Are you detoxifying? And is your force, is the energy in your body, your nervous system functioning at your God-given health potential? That's what we talk about there. But there's all different ways to change matter. We can have surgery. For sure is going to change matter. You cut into the skin, it's going to change the matter. We can have drugs. Drugs are going to change your system and your matter 100% of the time. Now, in our country with emergencies like crisis care, there's no other place better to be when it's in crisis. But when we talk about health, did you guys listen to the statistics that Dr. Nish was talking about? Like, we are not good. Our country is not good. But if we look at, these, if it's a crisis, if my leg's broken and the bone's sticking out of my skin, get me to the best surgeon that can fix that leg. And thank God for that. If my blood pressure's at, 250 over 180, I'm going to need something to bring it down, but that's in crisis. If you want to stay healthy, I want you to work with your innate intelligence, that intelligence that God gave you, and the force, the energy in your body that flows through you every single second. And I choose to change the matter by adjusting the spine to turn the power on. And I'm always talking about turn the power on, your power's on after the adjustment. That's what we're talking about, is the force, that energy in your body so it flows through your body without interference. I'm going to go over a couple books today. I brought them with me, and I read these books, and it just talked about like all these principles, way back when I read the chiropractic textbook about the 33 principles. And it's written by Norman Doidge, and he is one of the world's authorities on nervous system function and brain health and rehab from injuries. I mean, this dude is smart and crazy smart and doing amazing things with nerve damage and rehab. And he talks about several things in here, but I just picked out a few of them, the genetics. Just like, with Laney's parents. Just because your mom and dad have it or a relative has it doesn't mean that you're going to have it. All right? And I want to explain how that works. So when those two cells come together, you have a genetic code. And that is your template. That doesn't change. That's who you are. That's beyond our control. So what happens is you make copies. It's just making copies over and over and over. How the body's designed is those cells make a copy, and then they're designed to die. They make another copy, and then they die. So skin. Every 14 days, you have new skin. I don't know if you knew that. But those cells, they grow, and then they die. It's called apoptosis. And what happens with transcription, this is the expression of your genes. And so that's where the choice comes in, because you can choose if that gene is going to be expressed the way it should. You can choose to turn it on, or you can choose to turn it off, and that's by the decisions that you make every single day, what we've been talking about all morning. So are you turning them on or off? Your genetics are influenced by what you do and what you think every single time, just by taking those deep breaths early this morning. The stress that we have, the anxiety, everything that happens to us during the day. You have a choice on how to handle those. And it's called epigenetics. The science is there that you can turn those genes on or off. So there's two parts to the nervous system. There's a central nervous system, which is your brain and the spinal cord, that live wire that goes down your back. And then we have the peripheral nervous system. So that's all the nerves that go to your cells, your tissues, your organs, and that connect everything to your brain and back. And I love this because this Dr. Doidge was talking about, he's talking my language. Like, he's totally talking my language. Listen to this. This is from the book. Healthy neurons fire together and wire together. So if you're connected and everything is wired together, your body's going to function better. But listen to this. Neurons that fire apart, wire apart, or neurons out of sync, they fail to link. I mean, that's for me, I get excited about that because that's exactly what chiropractic is. If you're out of sync, you're not linking. And that means that you're not connected. That force doesn't run through your body the way it should. He also talked about some of the psychotropic drugs out there. So usually when somebody gets on like an SSRI, depression, anxiety, how long are you supposed to take them? For the rest of your life. That's typical, what you're supposed to do. Through his research, drugs on the market that are designed to block and raise chemicals in the brain, these drugs are worth billions in sales, but only provide 4 to 6 months of improvement. That's it, 4 to 6 months. That's not my words, that's from Dr. Doidge. And then, we talk about all this crazy stuff going on, why not to watch the news. Just pulled up a couple of the shootings. We're going to get a little depressed here for a second, but the Aurora shootings in 2012, James Homey was taking sertraline. Look at the side effects: aggression, behavior changes. The Charleston shooting in 2015, Dylan Roof, taking Suboxone, mood changes, agitation, hallucinations. And then everybody remembers the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, Stephen Paddock, diazepam, aggression, hostility, and suicidal thoughts. So some of those drugs on the market are affecting the way the brain works. Moving to the other book, AntiCancer, A New Way of Life. And I don't know if Dr. Nish is still here, but I'm waiting for your book. Let's get your book out. It was written by Dr. David Schreiber, a really good book on his story. And he just writes about his story. So this another super smart dude, PhD, MD, and he's doing research and taking care of patients, and then he gets diagnosed with brain cancer. So he goes through the treatments. And, it's hard on him. He gets some side effects, but he gets through it, and he thinks it's cured. It's all good. But it comes back. And now that it comes back, he's like, what do I do? And he really starts thinking about philosophy on what's the next step. What do I do? And this guy has access to, like, the best of the best of the best. And he goes in, and he's like, what else can I do for myself? Can I change my nutrition? Can I do something different? Can I exercise? Can I detoxify? And the best doctor said, no, just do the treatments again. There's nothing else you can do. But he started studying other cultures, and he really started studying the Tibetan culture. And they were saying things like, well, maybe I should look at my own body and look at my own terrain. So he talks about it's up to each of us to use our body's natural defenses. Other cultures do this much better than ours. And, going over the stats, in our country, we suck. We're not good. We're not healthy. There's so many other cultures that do it better than us. So the Tibetans look for failures in the terrain in our body, for what the body needed to defend itself against disease, how the soil should be reinforced. Talking about Nick, we got to reinforce the soil so the body on its own can confront the problem that led the patient to seek help. We got to do it ourselves. And then on the bottom, we talked about the 5 essentials of max living. He says them right here. Anti-inflammatory medication has many side effects. Through natural approaches to everyone, we can act to reduce inflammation. It's simply a matter of eliminating pro-inflammatory toxins from our environment, getting rid of toxins, adopting an anti-cancer diet, nutrition, getting rid of the sugar, seeking emotional balance, mindset, and satisfying our own body's need for physical exertion. So exercise, you got to move the body. 4 of the essentials. The 5th one is turning the power on, adjusting. So stress. Anybody got stress? We all have stress. Yes, we all have stress going on in our lives, like we talked about. Whether it's the boss at work after you. My staff is probably a little stressed out today, so thank you. I appreciate I just want to thank my staff because everybody around, they're amazing, and without them, this event would not happen. So sorry if it stressed you out a little bit today. But we all have it. We all have it. And a couple things that happen when you get stressed, it's the fight or flight response. It's called the sympathetic nervous system. So we release adrenaline and cortisol. That's what happens, the sympathetic stress response. It increases your heart rate, raises your blood pressure, and tenses your muscles. So it makes you do this, right? Maybe you're at work and you're typing on the computer doing that, or you're on your cell phone all day long and you're looking down. Everything stresses out. So what happens is the chemicals, adrenaline and cortisol, the chemicals affect your immune system cells by releasing cytokines and chemokines. Natural killer cells. And I want to talk about natural killer cells. These are the first cells in your immune system that go out and get the bacteria. Like they're chopping the heads off the bacteria. They're sticking knives in the viruses to kill them and break them down so the rest of your immune system can come up and clean it out. It's kind of like an Army Ranger, the first guy in killing the enemy or taking care of the enemy, or a Navy SEAL getting in and taking care of the enemy. That's what your natural killer cells do. But when you're always in a constant state of stress, they remain passively glued to the walls of the blood vessels. So they're sitting here. If I had a wall behind me, the Army Ranger, he's glued. He's stuck to the wall, and he can't move while the enemy goes through, and he can't do anything. That's kind of what a chronic stress pattern, what happens. And those natural killer cells, they stay glued to the wall, and they can't move. And they can't kill the viruses, the bacteria. So they stay glued to the walls of the blood vessels rather than attacking the viruses or abnormal precursor cancer cells. That's what stress can do. And we want to get rid of that stress so that doesn't happen. It says psychoneuroimmunology on the bottom. Psych means brain, how your brain works. Neuro means nervous system. Immunology, your immune function. So all three of them, they're all interrelated. And they all help each other. So if the brain is negative, guess what it's going to do to your immune system? It's going to decrease it. It's going to decrease the nervous system. If your nervous system down, it's going to affect the way you think and immune system. So it's all connected, and there is tons of research going on that psychoneuroimmunology topic right now. So we're going to break, now the fun part's going to start. We're going to break down every single nerve function that there is in the human body. Is everybody ready for that? For the next 3 hours. I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. But this slide right here, that goes through like every nerve function that in the human body. So we broke it down to the power of the adjustment. What actually happens when the adjustment happens? What happens to the nervous system? What goes on? And so we broke it down into this poster, but it's a little blurry. So we broke it down into printing, handwriting, so we can read it. So it's a little better. But the little basketball-looking thing up there, up in the right-hand corner, that's your spinal cord. And what happens is we have things called mechanoreceptors in every joint in your body. That's why exercise is so important, because we want to stimulate these mechanoreceptors to talk to your brain. And what those mechanoreceptors, when you stimulate them via exercise, via joint movement, it's going to send healthy messages into your brain and make your brain healthy so you can think clear. And there's two things that happen, and a lot of them are in your spine. So 50% of them are in your spine, in your whole body. So when you get the adjustment, when you move that spine or you exercise, what's going to happen is those mechanoreceptors are stimulated. And there's two areas where it goes. On each side of the spine, there's called sympathetic chain ganglia. So it's our bodies are set up amazing, because those, when you are stressed out, those sympathetic chain ganglia are going to help deal with that stress too. But when you get that adjustment, the mechanoreceptors, it can go out to the sympathetic chain ganglia, which affects your blood vessels, your viscera, your organs, the discs in your spine, and muscle spindles. It also can go up your spine through one of the tracts into the cerebellum. So this is the back part of your brain. And the cerebellum is, think of Chicago O'Hare Airport. Pretty busy. Anybody going through there? Usually get stuck there, and a lot of stress is in the airport. But there's planes going in, there's planes going out, coming in, all over the world there. And that's kind of like what your cerebellum does. There's so many messages there. It's the Grand Central Station. And when that message when the exercise message or the adjustment message goes up into the cerebellum, there's so many things that can happen. It can go to the thalamus, which can, numbness, tingling, hypersensitive. It can go to the cerebral cortex, which is your thinking. Go to the hypothalamus, the paraductal gray, pain, anxiety, depression. I mean, there's so many different areas that can happen, or that can be affected. So my job is to just find out where you're misaligned at. And a lot of you guys are in the office. There's some guests here too. But when I adjust you, I just want to find where the misalignment is at, where the subluxation is at. And then what happens after that is your body. Your innate intelligence takes over. The force takes over. And I don't know where that message is going to go, but your body does. And that's the amazing power of the body is to be able to heal itself. Your body is an amazing self-healing, self-regulating organism. If you treat it right, that's what's going to happen. And that's the amazing thing. And that's why everybody's here today, so we can make sure that the body's healing at 100% all the time. So pictures of the spine, you see the brain, the spinal cord goes, all the nerves go to the organs, cells, tissues. On the right side, there's a disc. You can see the bottom of the spine there, the disc, the nerves that come out. The big block vertebrae are the vertebrae that hold everything up. Very, very important to make sure that there's no pressure, no misalignments in that spine, so you can have 100% function. Now, why do most people come in and see me? Because we're in pain, right? We have issues, we have things going on, whether it's a headache, whether it's neck pain, numbness, tingling in your extremities, upper back pain, lower back pain, sciatic nerve, if you've ever had that. That stuff hurts. And we want to get that stuff better also, for sure. Get you out of pain so you can function, because there's also a thing called nociception that is pain. And when you have nociception input into your brain, it actually starts shrinking it. If it's chronic over 5 years, that brain will start shrinking. And that's not good to have. So pain is definitely part of a big time motivator. That's your red light. We need to get something done and get rid of that. But there's also function. And this is what I love about what I do, is because you never know what that function is going to affect by the adjustment. Whether it's, this just happened the other day. Grandma brought her grandson in for adjustment, and she was like, Mike, he's been off like all week, and there's something been wrong with him. I don't know what it is. So I adjusted him, and she comes back at her next visit and says, I don't know what you did, but when he walked out of here, that kid was a totally different child. That stuff is what gets me going and gets me fired up. Or another one, sinuses. Somebody will come adjust them, and they'll come back the next visit, and they go, is it normal that when I got out to my car that like my sinuses just like the dam broke and I just started draining like crazy? Or my headaches went away, or my vision is just like better now. It's very more acute. Or I'm breathing better. My heartburn went away. I'm going to the bathroom better. Or when you take a baby, the other day, Aaliyah, I don't know where Aaliyah's at, but she had her baby Mila in there, and I walked around the corner and I saw her, and I mean, don't babies just make you so happy? Like, I was just like, it just changed my mood instantly. But what if that baby is like colicky and doesn't sleep all night and stays up, keeps you up all through the night? Then it gets a little stressed. Then we get those stress hormones again. But it's so amazing when you take a 6-month-old and it hasn't pooped in 10 days, and you put your fingertips on his or her sacrum, and you adjust that, and before they're leaving the office, they're filling their diaper and causing a blowout. That kind of stuff is amazing and is really fun. So yeah, as long as I'm not changing the diaper. So there's so many different things, and like I said, I don't know what's going to happen. My job is to simply find where that spine's out of alignment and adjust it, and then let that innate intelligence go back to the philosophy of your body. It's designed to heal. We just got to remove the interference, and some of that interference is, and it's not just adjusting, it's nutrition, it's exercise, it's positive mindset, it's detoxing the body, it's all of it. It's all of it. You have to do everything, and sometimes it can be hard. One of the hardest things to do is to stay healthy, because there's so much misinformation coming at you. It is difficult. And, everybody knows it. And looking at the stats, it is hard, but we need to be the ones that go out and try to save it. So one thing that I want to do, I know a lot of you are in the office or in a chiropractic office getting adjusted, and I love it. You guys keep going, but there are some guests here that maybe aren't doing that. So I want to give you guys an opportunity. I'll talk to you guys for a few minutes here. In your left side of your packets in your folder for all the guests, there is a red sheet in your packet. So pull that out, pull your pen out. I'll walk you through this. On top there is a symptom chart. So if you have any of those symptoms, go ahead and circle those. There's a place for your name, your date of birth, And if you have family members that aren't here, write them down too. Any spouses or children, phone number, and legible email address. And this, like Lanny talked about, are you going to take action or not? Do you want to find out what your health is? And for being here, one goal for us for me is to make it very easy and very affordable for everybody to get that checked out, to get that spinal evaluation, to get the 5 essentials started in motion. The first step is the hardest. That's always the hardest thing, but once you get the motion going, it makes it a lot easier. So for the guests, what we do in the office, I do a consultation. I'm going to do some tests on you. I'm going to check your range of motion, and I'm going to get in there and find if you have any misalignments. I'll find them, right, everybody? I'll find where they're at. And then we'll do a nerve scan and get an x-ray taken, so I know exactly which way to adjust you and if you decide to get under care. So that's what we want to do, but I want to make it very easy and affordable. And what we're going to do today is for you and your entire family, for any guests here, we're doing it for $40. And the reason we do that, again, if you went to the hospital, I mean, just a full spine x-ray is going to be a lot of money. So it's very affordable for you to come in and get checked out. And all I'm asking is that commitment is to get checked out. That's it. If you decide to do something after that, I'll have you back for another visit. We'll go over everything, and then you can decide what you want to do at that point. But to get checked out, and that's what we want to do. And today, the 40, so what I do with the money, I like to give back to our community. And that money is actually going to be going to a veteran organization. It's called Struggle Beyond the Decade. And I'm going to have Aaron Martinez come up here in a little bit. He's the head of that. He's a Army veteran that comes home, and he is passionate about helping our veterans with the suicide issue. And so that money is not only going to, help yourself, but it's going to go to him to help our veterans. And that's very important to me, that we do that. So it's, amazing opportunity to help a great organization. But there's a box on the bottom. My staff will come around and they're gonna help you get some time scheduled. There's a box with some times on there. Just circle the time that works best for you, and they will help you out with that. But I could sit up here and break down all the neurology and all that stuff, but I'm not going to do that because I want you guys to hear from somebody like you guys. So I have a very special guest here today. Her name is Sarah Roberts, and she's going to come up and share her story on where she's come. So all I ask is you guys give Sarah so much love and so much support because she is stepping way, 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 way out of her comfort zone. All right? So if you can come on up, Sarah, and just share your story. This or this one?
It doesn't matter. Whichever is easiest.
Okay, use that.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Miller. Hi, guys. Speaking today isn't something I felt completely ready to do. I've been pretty secluded for the past 4 years, and my emotions are still very raw. So I ask for your love and support as I lean into some fears that I'm working through right now. Thank you. I've been through more than I can tell you in this amount of time, but I would like to share what I can with the intention of bringing even a spark of hope to somebody in need. The person you're seeing right now is night and day different from the person I was when I met Dr. Miller. I have had several health issues in my life, with most of them being in this last 10 years, despite the fact that I ate an unprocessed, plant-based diet, organic when possible, and I ran 10 to 14 miles a day, 6 days a week without fail. I consider myself someone who was living a healthy lifestyle. As years went on, I began having more serious health conditions until eventually I couldn't keep track of all the issues that were piling up. The doctors were piling up as well, and without lack of effort, they were all struggling to fit the puzzle pieces together. Eventually, most would recommend me to someone else or just tell me they didn't think they were the right ones to help me. While I appreciated their honesty, it was terrifying, to say the least. I had a list of medical conditions, and I couldn't figure out why. I was recommended for Mayo twice, but travel was getting too hard for me. Along with seeing many other doctors, I was endlessly searching for answers on my own, reading and researching as much as I could, which wasn't easy given the way I was feeling. In 2 years, I had done acupuncture, seen 2 chiropractors, 3 physical therapists, tried cranial sacral therapy, energy healing, and the list goes on. After much heart and effort from the list of people I saw, every one of them had also come to a place where they felt they just couldn't help me. I was at an all-time low and fear was gripping me tighter and tighter, despite my best efforts to keep faith. I felt so alone, helpless, and hopeless. Then one day I heard about a lab in California that specializes in Lyme disease testing. So I sent off my blood work, completely expecting it to be negative. But much to my surprise, it wasn't. Sorry, that word's still really hard for me. Traveling wasn't an option for me at this point, and I was having trouble finding doctors in the area familiar with the disease. But I knew I had to figure out something quickly as my mobility was fading quickly. I was having relentless neck and upper back pain, and my scalp, shoulders, back, chest, and neck muscles were in continuous spasms. For 2 years, I wasn't able to turn my head at all, or any of my body from the waist up. I couldn't stand any touch, and I wasn't able to stand up longer than a couple minutes. There wasn't a second that I wasn't in agony. I had huge swollen pockets on each side of my collarbone, and the only position I could tolerate was sitting in a chair with pillows meticulously placed and blankets propped under each arm to prevent the weight of them causing additional pulling in my neck. I was continuously trying to find a position that I can tolerate. Laying down at night was pure torment. It felt like my bed was a pile of jagged rocks stabbing into me at all times. The longer I laid there, the more intense it became, and so I rarely slept during this period. I was experiencing more pain than I knew possible, and there were no words to describe the different sensations and things that were occurring in my body. Nobody seemed to understand exactly what was happening, nor did I. I felt like a prisoner in my own body. I remember many nights praying to God that He would end my suffering and take me already. Throughout it all, I never stopped trying to help myself, focusing on my mindset as much as I could and praying that I would come across something to guide me out of this. I was listening to audiobooks and learning more about the mind-body connection and how our emotions have a direct effect on our health, often manifesting as disease in our bodies. I was doing multiple energy techniques, trying to release any emotional wounds, beliefs, or past experiences that could be contributing to disease. I was trying everything that I could with all that I had in me. As time went on, I wasn't seeing much, if any, improvements. I felt I was failing or not doing something correctly, because if I had been, I would be better. These thoughts were really hard for me to deal with. Eventually, I was taken to the hospital for a week where I received a blood transfusion due to internal bleeding. This was the first time I had been out of my house in almost a year, and even before that, it was only for doctor's appointments. My pain was at an all-time high. What seemed so terrible ended up being a detour in the right direction. Through some twists and turns, it ended up leading me to Dr. Miller. I had some major fears about taking the steps to call him. After all, I hadn't been able to turn my head and still couldn't tolerate any touch. When at the hospital, one of the physical therapists kept trying to persuade me to move my head, but I had tried and couldn't. It felt locked, like it had been cemented in place. My collarbone area was still huge and swollen, and I hurt so bad I couldn't even stand to imagine how a chiropractor would be able to touch me, let alone get any movement at this point. The 2 I had tried the year before didn't have a lot of luck, so I wondered if I was crazy to try again. I knew I had to do something, though, so I called Dr. Miller's office. I was greeted with a friendly voice, and I explained my condition and was met with such compassion and care. It gave me a little bit of comfort. Later that day, Dr. Miller called me, and I immediately sensed his kindness. And even though he doesn't typically do house calls, he agreed to come see me, which surprised me in the best possible way. After speaking with him, I felt the smallest sense of peace and hope, which was huge for me. After meeting with him the first time at my house, I knew I had gotten his number for a reason. I felt an instant comfort and trust in him. I felt like I mattered. I cannot tell you how long it had been since I had that feeling, and I was very grateful. I still had a ton of fear moving forward, but I was willing and wanting to go ahead with his care. He came down once a week, starting off slowly, just doing deep tissue massage, which I cried through for a few sessions, but I knew it needed to be done, and he was always encouraging me through it. Most importantly, I felt safe and I trusted his knowledge completely. Eventually, he was able to adjust my back and after months, my neck. It's been 9 months now. I'm not saying things are perfect. I still have a lot of pain, although it is much less than it was before. There are many ups and downs, but I do my best to take it day by day, and sometimes minute by minute. Even though you can't see the pain I feel and the mountains I still have to climb, there is one thing you can see, and that's me, here, mobile. And that is light years away from the condition I was in when I started. I'm able to stand and move around much longer, and I can sit for periods without blankets under my arms for support now. I can do things around the house that I couldn't do before, and I'm able to be here and read this to you. That's really huge. I can't begin to tell you what it does for your soul when someone goes out of their way to help you. There were a few days in the beginning of my adjustments with Dr. Miller that I didn't believe I could hang in there another day. It hadn't been long enough to see improvements, and I felt so tired of making it through each day. I'll never forget how his words and kindness would pull me through these times. He is truly my lighthouse, shining brightly for me to see through stormy waters. One of the things he told me was that it was okay if I didn't believe right now, because he did believe, and that he would let me borrow his belief until mine showed up. He said it with conviction, and he said it with faith. And he's always trusted in my body's innate ability to heal, never wavering, never second guessing. I can't put into words the impact that has made in my life. It's been a pure godsend. If anyone listening is going through something, I'm here to encourage you to not give up. I'm the sign you've been praying for. And if you know anyone going through something, I encourage you to let it be boldly known that you believe for them, because it can move mountains just like it did when Dr. Miller stood in that belief, and still does, for me and for so many others. Thankfully, for the last several months, I've been able to make it to EP True Chiropractic. I wouldn't be where I am today without Dr. Miller and the love and support of his entire staff. Their warmth, light, and encouragement is the kind of care that everyone deserves, no matter where you are in your journey. May you be blessed, and I thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your love and your support and warmth.
So I have a confession to make. I mean, that was, yeah. A confession to make to Sarah, because when I talked to her that day, in my brain, I was like, I didn't want to do it because it was out of my way. And that was very selfish of me. But thankfully, God kicked me in the butt and said, you need to go take care of Sarah. And it was because of that I took time and I did it, and she's doing so much better. The first day I walked into her house, she couldn't move. And you have taught me just as much than I've taught you. So you're amazing, and this girl's got big things happening in her life. So she is going to be amazing. She's on the journey, and I just appreciate you coming and speaking today. I know how hard it was.